All right, welcome back to the 24th floor. Big weekend ahead in college football, and Ole Miss right in the middle of it. The Rebels hit the road to Norman, which for me is a place I really do not like. I'm sure y'all already know, but they early kickoff against number 13 Oklahoma.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough one. That stadium is rowdy. This one's got everything you want. I know the Bedlam's got you. Lane Kiffin's team looking to bounce back after that tough loss at Georgia. They had the lead going into the fourth quarter, but things unraveled late. Now they got to regroup fast because they're going to be playing one of the best defenses in the country when they play the Sooners.
No doubt. Oklahoma's defense has been lights out. Number one in total defense nationwide, but Ole Miss can still score with anybody. This is one of those strength-on-strength kind of games. Ruben, this time I'm going to let you introduce our guest because you always got something to say when I introduce our guest.
That's because you're usually singing or something when you do it. And to continue the conversation about Ole Miss, you can't talk about them without having this guy right here in the conversation, the host of the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, which you can catch on the 24 Plus app, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcast. We're talking, of course, about Stephen Willis. Give him the clap.
Yes, sir. Hype.
There you go. That one. All right, Stephen, thanks for joining us.
No problem at all. Is anything going on this week?
No, I think it's a dead week. Pretty sure there's nothing going on. Let's get right to it. When we get right to the mix of things, what do you feel like went wrong? Because a lot of stuff did go right at Georgia, but what do you feel like went wrong in that loss to Georgia?
I think whatever they thought the game plan needed to be defensively against the Georgia offense, it was just a poor choice. They tried to do a lot of the drop 8 stuff that they did against the LSU Tigers early in the year. That wasn't going to work against Georgia. They physically run the ball down the hill, and you saw the way those backs went. You would hit the running back, and instead of getting them down at 2 yards, all of a sudden it's a 6-yard gain, and next thing is 2nd and 4. And that put Ole Miss behind the chains over the course of that game. And once Georgia started going, there was not a lot that could happen. Now, Ole Miss scored a touchdown in their first 5 drives, but it got to the point where Trinidad Chambliss, think of the baseball pitcher analogy. Whenever they try to be too perfect and start trying to aim the football or aim the baseball, you're going to be inaccurate. And that's what happened in the fourth quarter because he knew when he got the ball, it's like, oh, I have to score a touchdown this drive or we're going to be in trouble. And the pressure at that point just kind of started to squeeze him. Though it wasn't the environment, it was kind of self-inflicted pressure.
Stephen, with this game, I thought a lot about the Detroit Lions game against Kansas City. And what I mean by that is I remember head coach Dan Campbell for the Lions has said if they score 30, they'll win. And so going into this game, I was thinking, okay, if Ole Miss scores 30, they should beat Georgia because of the offense and the defense will make enough stops. But that just did not happen. Would you like to say that this was kind of uncharacteristic of a Pete Golden defense?
I would like to say that, but we saw this defense before. The Arkansas game happened. So this is moving dangerously close to a trend this season. Now, the good news for Ole Miss is there are exactly 3 teams on the schedule that can do what just happened, and that is Georgia and Arkansas. Ole Miss saw 2 of those already. The next one's Florida, which doesn't have a head coach at the moment that can do the physical running style game. So those are the 3 worry games about unlocking this Ole Miss defense. Now, the question will be against the Oklahoma Sooners when Ole Miss goes up there. They struggle running the football. They are more similar to LSU than Georgia. You can do a lot of the drop 8 stuff, but I think with John Mateer being healthy, not healthy, whatever, throwing the football with the chance of rain that is going to be in the air as well. Gripping a football with a surgically repaired thumb could be problematic in the rain. I think that Ole Miss is going to try and heat up Mateer in this game, and I wouldn't be surprised if you saw even some man coverage at time to time.
Now, Mateer can run it, though. He's not afraid to tuck that thing and run 8, 9, 10 yards pretty consistently with it. Do you feel like that could cause a little bit of a problem, though, for the Ole Miss defense? Because you said it perfectly. It's getting dangerously close to a trend of a team that we've seen this in the past, great on offense, average on defense, or great on defense, average on offense, when you really need both sides once you get to the college football playoffs.
Yeah, there's a chance that Mateer could hurt you running, but there's also a chance that he can throw you the ball. Oklahoma is like 119th in the country in turnover margin, which means they're turning it over quite a bit. And with a surgically repaired thumb, with the chance of inclement weather, I think you want to heat up and make the decision making even be more quick from John Mateer, and hopefully he will throw it to the other end of the defense. Because it's funny, because they turn the ball over a lot. Ole Miss doesn't get turnovers. Oklahoma doesn't run the ball very well. Ole Miss can't stop the run. It's a very weird game when you look at the stats and start looking at how it goes.
Now we're looking at some of the Ole Miss. Now we're going to see some defense. We were watching some of the Ole Miss offensive plays. We've talked a lot about some of the struggles they had defensively. Let's talk a little bit about what they did well offensively, though, because they did put up a lot of points.
Yeah, Trinidad Chambliss, he played 3/4 of Heisman-level football on Saturday. He just couldn't close it out. It just got to the point they're going to close the windows. Georgia does it. That defense forever, it doesn't matter how good they are. It's kind of like a boa constrictor. And once they get you, they've got you. And that game that happened in the fourth quarter, like we talked about earlier. But the first 3 quarters, he was absolutely phenomenal. Having an historic performance. Kejuan Lacey ran the ball. The wide receivers did a great job catching the ball. They were using all the weapons. Trinidad Chambliss completed passes to 8 or 9 wide receivers in that game. If he does just that, you don't have to do it for 4 quarters. If he has the same performance against the Oklahoma Sooners, Ole Miss is going to win this game.
Yeah, I was incredibly proud of Chambliss. I'm in a group chat with a bunch of UGA fans because, I'm from Georgia, so they were kind of trying to tease me. But, I mean, during the game, they were a little bit nervous, and I remember after the game, they was like, yeah, y'all got a really good quarterback over there with Chambliss. Obviously, with him, his height, you could see a lot of balls were batted down, and that's going to always be something he has to deal with. But he showed, which I know is something what we talked about, that he can handle the pressure on the road. The question now is, will he be able to handle the pressure on the road again? What do you feel about him going against this OU defense that presents just a lot of challenges?
I think I'm not worried about the atmosphere, because if you can do what you did at Georgia, you're going to be fine. So I'm not worried about the atmosphere outside of that. Everybody talks about the defense at Oklahoma. And yes, before I say what I'm about to say, realize that I understand that that's a good defense. And Brent Venables is very good at his job, and he gets paid a lot of money to do it. But if you look at the teams that OU has played this season, Auburn, Texas, it's like a bingo card of bad SEC offenses. So this will be the first top 50 offense that Oklahoma has even played. So yes, they might be very good. They might be dominant, or they might just haven't played anybody at this point. So we'll see exactly how it goes and if Ole Miss can take advantage of it, because this is by far the best offense that Oklahoma's played.
Yeah, you're right. There's a big difference between being statistically great and actually being great. I watched that OU Texas game, and I was not impressed with OU's offense or OU's defense, to be quite honest with you, because Texas's offense was not good. Yeah. And OU's defense still let them kind of run the table as much as they wanted. I was just not impressed with what I saw from OU at that point. So you make a great point, Stephen. They haven't really been tested yet, and this will be a tough test.
Yes, 3 games in a row. They've got Ole Miss, Tennessee, and Alabama, I believe. So we're about to find out what the OU defense is. But at this point, Texas opened them up. Arch Manning completed like 75% of his passes. Against Kentucky, they completely shut down Arch Manning. So, yeah, I think they're good. I think schematically they're good, and there's enough history of Brent Venables that they're going to be good, and they're good players on that side of the ball. I just don't know that they can't be gotten, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, we're always talking about what Lane Kiffin says during the week. And so this week, he mentioned Oklahoma's elite signal study. Do you think that was gamesmanship, or do you think that's a real concern?
I honestly think that Lane was taking a shot at Hugh Freeze whenever they said that. Yeah, it's one of those things, if they're looking at film study, there's no stealing signals. So everybody's playing the game. Ole Miss is doing that, looking at the game film to see if they can pick something up as well. Everybody's doing that. The point that I think he was doing was that Hugh Freeze made it too easy for the signals to get stolen, to the point where they knew what was going on. And basically Lane mentioned that he texted Hugh and said, yeah, you need to change your signals. And I think that is the direction that's going. After the Connor Stallion stuff, everybody hears signal stealing and they assume that there's some kind of thing. Oklahoma's not doing that at all. But I do think that that was a jab at Hugh Freeze. Like, I had Gary Patterson on my show last week, and the former TCU head coach. And Ole Miss played TCU in the Peach Bowl in 2014.
I was there. I was at that game.
Yes, and TCU absolutely took Ole Miss apart. Gary Patterson said, hey, everything that we needed to know about the Ole Miss offense, we figured out by the way that the tight end lined up. That's how simple the Ole Miss offense apparently was. Gary Patterson figured that out. Ole Miss's offense couldn't do anything in that ball game. So, yes, whenever you take one and one, that's going to generally make two. And I think that Lane was kind of poking fun at Hugh Freeze in that statement.
All right, let's talk a little bit about big picture before we let you get out of here. You take a loss to Georgia. You need to beat OU, obviously, for this college football. We're talking college football playoff contention. You know, what's that path look like right now for Ole Miss?
I think it's one of two things, honestly. I think either Ole Miss beats Oklahoma, and if they beat Oklahoma, they're going to go 11-1, and they're going to host a playoff game at a minimum in Vaught-Hemingway Stadium. Or if they lose to Oklahoma, they're going to go 8-4 or 9-3 and not make the playoff at all.
Wow.
So, yeah, I think those are the two choices, which means this Oklahoma game is going to be unbelievably massive with everything that's going on.
You don't see a world where they could win this game and then lose a game like the Egg Bowl? You think it's all or nothing?
Yeah, I think this is the most massive game in the Lane Kiffin era as far as what it means. If everything that is going on in the background, all of this noise around Florida right now that you're seeing all over X, it's going to get louder with the loss at Oklahoma, because the only card that Florida can play on that, and the only way that they can do that other than doing like the Enron math and all of that type stuff, is that you can't win a title at Ole Miss. You can't win a championship. Come to Florida, you can do that. Well, if Ole Miss beats Oklahoma, they're going to go to the playoff, and that argument is gone forever at that point. But if Ole Miss loses to Oklahoma and loses and not makes the playoff, that argument gets louder and louder and louder and louder. And that's the reason I think that the pressure is going to build to where Ole Miss can't win the last 4 games in the season. Statistically, they can. It just doesn't seem like something that's going to happen, because this pressure is going to get ratcheted up each and every single week. And if that happens, I saw 2022. I saw what it looked like. And the last time that Ole Miss went through something like this, they got absolutely curb stomped against Arkansas. Mississippi State beat them on their home field. And the Texas Tech bowl game at the end of the year, everybody had just melded in a little bit as well. That was a team that started 7-1 and ended up 8-5.
Wow.
So let's talk, Stephen, before we get too deep in that, for the people who aren't aware, all the noise that you're talking about is the fact that the Florida head coaching job is now open, and one of the big names that's been slid in there as a possible replacement is Lane Kiffin. So talk a little bit about that for the people who maybe don't realize what that noise is we're discussing.
Yeah, all the talking heads, especially the national pundits that know what's going on and all of that, they'll say, hey, Florida's a much better job than Ole Miss. Florida is everything that you would want. They don't mention the fact that all of Ole Miss's coaching staff, I think, that makes more money than the Florida coaching staff. Lane Kiffin makes more money than Billy Napier did at Florida. Ole Miss has won 10 games 3 out of the last 4 years, more so than Florida. And Florida has fired their last 4 head coaches after 3 years each and every time. So they're going to argue that it's a better job. It is a better brand. I will freely admit that, because of what Steve Spurrier and Urban Meyer built. But in 2025, no, Florida is not a better job. But the noise around Florida in social media land, they're going to be louder and louder and louder in saying that they are. And eventually, if you say it enough, people will believe it.
Yeah, it's crazy how. I mean, believe me personally, after watching that documentary on Lane, I don't think he'll ever leave Ole Miss. I think if he were to leave for another college, it would be Bama. And I know there was noise around DeBoer earlier this season, but now they've got it together, so that's probably not going to happen. I think when Lane's kids graduate, there might be some more teeth to him moving. But after watching that documentary, I would think that the only thing he would leave for besides Bama would be to go back to the NFL because of unfinished business. And so for me, like thinking that you got to wait till the kids graduate, I mean, that's going to be a while. So he's going to be in Oxford for a minute.
Yeah, and the rumor is that Ole Miss is working on a contract that would put him somewhere in the top 3 head coaches in college football.
Well, that'd be the smart thing to do.
Yeah. So money's not a factor. If Lane Kiffin decides he is going to go to Florida, it's not because of anything that Ole Miss did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, Stephen, we know we've kept you for a lot longer than we normally do, and you've got other stuff you got to do, so we're going to let you go ahead and get on about your business. But tell the people one more time how they can watch Mr. Stephen Willis if they want to ever get caught up on their Ole Miss information.
Yes, go to the YouTube page, Locked On Ole Miss. We do a podcast every morning. We have extra videos with former players and experts. The most perspectives that you can have around Ole Miss football, we like to do that every single day. You can catch us on our audio feed as well, Locked On Ole Miss, with all kind of good information as well. So we put that out, and we're getting ready to go ad-free and add a whole bunch of really cool stuff in December. So we'll pay attention. We'll keep you up to speed on that.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Stephen. We appreciate your time, brother.
Appreciate it, man.